Hi, Dan Barman here, coming to you live with episode number 2 of my Drumming 101 video series for beginners. First, I'd really like to thank everybody who joined me last month for episode number 1, which was all about how to build a drum set. Today, we're going to go over the importance of stretching, and I'm going to share with you a stretching routine that I've designed specifically for drummers. In my experience as a drummer, one of the things that I've had the opportunity to do is to teach several Division I drum corps as a member of their visual staff. And during that experience, one of my jobs was to design a stretching routine for the members of the corps to do every day so that they could prepare to do the exercises that they needed to do on the field. Using that experience along with some additional research that I've done on stretching and ergonomics, I've been able to design a quick daily stretching routine that's excellent for drummers and also translates very well to other instrumentalists such as piano players, string players, guitar players. So please feel free to share this with any friends of yours that might benefit from it as well. Now, before we get started, it's very important for me to say that although I do have a lot of experience with this, I'm not a licensed physician or a licensed physical therapist. Although stretching is a great way to help prevent injury, these stretches are in no way meant to be any sort of cure or treatment for any injuries that you may have. While you're stretching, it's very important to keep a few things in mind. Number one is to keep breathing. You want to make sure that as you stretch, you're keeping a natural flow of air moving in and out the body, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathing shouldn't be labored, it should be very relaxed and regular. And while you're breathing, it's very beneficial to help visualize the area of your body that you're stretching filling up with oxygen when you breathe in, and as you exhale, visualize that area of the body releasing and lengthening. So for each stretch that we're going to be doing today, I'm going to ask you to hold each stretch for 15 seconds. And for the purposes of saving time for the video, I'm only going to show you one side of each stretch today. So if I stretch my left arm, you know that immediately after, you should do the same stretch on the right side. All in all, it should take you about 10 minutes, maybe even less, to do this whole routine of stretches as long as you're moving swiftly from stretch to stretch. The first stretch that we're going to be doing is a whole body stretch. And it's really just meant to wake up the body and get some blood flow happening throughout the entire body. So the first thing we do is just stand up, and you want your feet to be hip width apart. So that's a little bit on the inside of your shoulders. And a good way to tell if your legs are hip width apart is that your legs won't be jutting outward. They'll be going straight down. And it's usually about 2 fists width between the 2 feet. And you also want to make sure that your feet are pointed straight ahead. So your feet shouldn't be ducking out or pointed in. They should be straight ahead. You want to keep your legs straight, but your knees just very slightly bent. And it just starts with breathing in, taking the 2 hands and stretching all the way to the top. And as you stretch, you want to think about reaching through the pinky, and your pinkies face forward. And as we stretch, you can invite a little bit of a back bend even, so that the upper body is stretching just a little bit backwards. You want to think about stretching through the top of your head and through the top of your fingertips. You're going to hold that for a few seconds, and then as we exhale, you're going to take your arms wide and slowly do a bit of a swan dive forward, and we're going to try to touch our toes. Now you want to relax the neck, let the weight of the head pull you down, and with each exhale, you want to think about releasing your lower back, releasing your hamstrings, releasing your head, and letting your body fall further and further with each exhale. You also want to make sure that the weight is evenly distributed on the feet, so you're not too far back in your heels, you're not too far forward on the balls of your feet, but that all 4 corners of each foot has an even amount of weight distributed. And then after 15 seconds, when you're ready to release, you want to come up very slowly from the bottom of the back to the top of the head, stacking each vertebra one by one, keeping your chin to your chest so that the very last thing to come up is the top of your back, and then your chin releases and we go back into fingers up. I like to do that stretch twice. And you'll feel that you're getting a stretch through the back, you're getting a stretch through the hamstrings, your neck gets nice and loose. It's a really nice way to warm up. So now that we've done a full body stretch as a warm-up, what we're going to be doing from here on out is stretching our bodies in the order of blood flow. Essentially what that means is we're going to be starting our stretches from the inside out. Now for this stretch, you want access to an open doorway. And the way this stretch works is you want to get maybe an inch or two in front of the doorway, and you can do this both sides at the same time or one at a time. I prefer to do it one at a time. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your palm and you're going to place it on the wall that's next to you so that your palm is about the same height as your face. And then you're going to take a step forward with the foot that's the same side as the arm that's raised. If you have both arms up, you can do whichever foot you like. You can also switch feet halfway through the stretch if you'd like. For our purposes, doing one side at a time, right hand is up, right foot is coming forward. And when that happens, we're going to be bringing our forearm, the underside of the forearm, flat against the wall. We're going to take that right leg and we're just going to bend the right knee. And that's going to create a stretch that's happening across the right pectoral muscle, the chest. You want to hold that for 15 seconds and then gently, without pushing against the wall, but rather by pushing on the floor with your leg, you're going to step out of that stretch and then switch sides. So the next area of the body to be stretched is the neck. There's a few neck stretches that I really like to use, and the one that I use the most goes like this. You're going to take your right hand and you're going to place it behind your back. And as you can see, my fingers are sort of facing up. Some people might be able to bring their fingers a little bit in more, a little bit less. It doesn't really make much of a difference. But you just want that hand behind your back so that your palm is facing out. Then you're going to take the opposite hand and place it sort of just above your ear. And you're going to bring your elbow out to the side. And then you're just going to bring your left ear towards your left shoulder. Now it's important that you're not pulling on your head. You really just want to let the natural weight of the arm just comfortably and easily stretch that right side of the neck. And you're going to feel that stretch from behind the ear down sort of the back right side of the neck and down through the top of the shoulder. And again, you want to hold that for 15 seconds. And if you're trying to get a little bit deeper of a stretch, just try to bring your elbow a little bit further toward the back of the room, and that'll help to deepen that stretch. The next part of our body that we want to stretch is the shoulders. Now there's a lot of different shoulder stretches, and some of you have probably seen them. They usually look something like this or something like that. This one is similar. It's a stretch that's been adapted from yoga. They call it the eagle. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our right arm, we're going to cross it so that the right elbow is in the center of our chest. We're going to take that left hand and we're going to scoop it underneath that right arm so that our two elbows are touching. The right elbow is on top, sort of the top inside of the left elbow. Then we're going to take that left hand and we're going to bend it up. So now our fingertips are all facing the ceiling. We're then going to continue that motion. We're going to bring our hands together and we're going to turn the left hand so that it touches the right palm. So the two palms are coming together, right? My left fingers are touching the inside of my right palm. And you're going to feel right away the pull coming around the outside of that shoulder. Now, if you're not able to get all the way around, if you're not able to get the hands into that position, that's okay. Just get as close as you can. And the way to do that is to bring your left arm in. The more you bring your left arm in, the more you're going to feel that stretch. So if you're able to interlock the hands, go ahead and do so. And then we just want to stand nice and straight with our arms in the center of our body. And we're going to try to turn our palm so that the right palm is facing the left wall. Right? So we're going to go like this, take our right palm so that it's facing the left wall. That's going to get a deeper stretch in the right shoulder. And what's great about this stretch is that not only does it stretch the shoulder, but we can adjust it to also stretch the top part of the back. And the way we do that is like this. You want to think about somebody pushing a basketball into your stomach so that your body sort of curves forward, right? So we go from standing up tall to sort of scooping our belly in so that the belly button is coming in toward the small of the back and our shoulders round forward. What that's going to do is it's going to start a stretch along the top side of our shoulder blades. As those shoulder blades pull apart, you're going to feel a stretch in this area here. And once you're in that sort of curved spine, a good way to accentuate that stretch is to bring the elbows up. So we stay in that sort of curved posture, and we're going to bring the elbows up toward our face, but we're going to keep the arms close to the body. We're not bringing the hands out here. Everything is staying pretty tight, and as we raise the elbows a little bit more, you're really going to start to feel that stretch happening in this area. Hold that for 15 seconds, and then you're going to go ahead and switch sides so that the left arm is on top. Now we're really getting into the drumming muscles. So a really good stretch that I like to use for the smaller muscle groups that come down through the forearm goes like this. You're going to take your right arm and extend it forward, and you want your arm to be more or less flat. So we're not coming up here, we're not coming down here. We're more or less level with our shoulder. And you're going to let that right hand just sort of droop naturally. You're going to take the left hand and gently you're going to just scoop the fingers and the top of the right hand into the bottom of the left hand. So it looks like this, and you're sort of scooping these fingers in toward the palm. And then very, very gently, you just want to start to put a little bit of a pull on the top of that right hand. And you're going to start to feel that stretch coming into the top of your right forearm. Now it's really important that you don't overdo this stretch. If you start to pull too hard on that right hand, you could end up injuring the inside of your right wrist. So you really want to be conscious of what it's feeling like there. You will feel, and you should feel, a nice comfortable stretch that extends down through the forearm and into the top of the hand, but you should not feel uncomfortable pressure or an uncomfortable stretch inside the wrist. If you do feel that, you know that you're going a little bit too hard and you want to go ahead and release. So hold that for 15 seconds and switch sides. So now that we've stretched the top side of our forearms, it's time to move on to the bottom side of our forearms. And in order to do the stretch, you're going to want a flat tabletop of some kind. You could also do it on the floor if you get down on your hands and knees if you don't have a clear tabletop. And what you want to do is stand above your tabletop and take your hands, keep them about shoulder width apart, maybe even a little bit inside. So again, that's about 2 fists width apart, maybe a little bit more than that actually. And you're going to take your palms and you're going to put them on the table with your fingers facing back towards your body. Now, depending on how flexible your forearms are, you may or may not be able to get your palms flat onto the tabletop. And it's okay if you don't. So if your palms are coming to about here, that's perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that you get that stretch happening up and down the arms. And again, if you don't want to push it too hard. You want to get a nice comfortable stretch, but you want to be aware of what's going on in the wrist. If you're feeling any sort of pain or discomfort in the wrist, you want to back off. So once we're in this position, if your palms are able to get flat on the table and you want to get a little bit deeper in that stretch, you can bend your knees. You can also lean back a little bit, so we're talking about putting a little bit of weight on our heels. And also check to make sure that your elbows are straight but not locked. And hold this stretch again for about 15 seconds. And when you release out of the stretch, you want to make sure to do it one side at a time, nice and slow. Now that we've stretched the top of the body, we're going to continue down into the lower half of the body. And what we're going to start with is a stretch that's really good for opening up the lower back and for getting those muscles that help us swivel side to side when we're going around the drum set. We're going to help to bring in some blood flow and some oxygen into those muscles. So the way that this works is just like the first stretch we did. You want to take your feet and have them hip width apart, so that's about 2 fists width apart, facing forward. You're going to take your arms, you're going to put them straight out. You don't want to lock your elbows, but you do want your arms more or less straight. And what we're going to do from here is just comfortably swivel to the left and then to the right. Okay? Now it's important that when we do this, that we don't go too hard, because you don't want to hurt your knees, you don't want to overextend your lower back. But we are going to go to the left and to the right. So this isn't the type of stretch that we hold for 15 seconds and then switch. This is side to side. This is really just to loosen and warm up the back. We're not thinking about really stretching and pulling and lengthening here. This is really just to loosen up. So you want to do about 15 to each side, so about 30 total. And you want to keep your arms straight but loose, right? We don't need to be here, we can be here. And the head should be loose as well. The next place that us drummers want to pay attention to is our hip joints. You know, as we sit on the drum throne and work those pedals, our hips get quite a workout. And it's really important that before we sit down and do our drumming, that we loosen up the hips, get a little bit of lubrication going on in there, so that we don't have any sort of repetitive stress injuries going on after playing. So a great way to loosen up the hips that I've learned goes like this. You're going to stand up, and again with your feet hip width apart, you're going to start by lifting your right foot just about an inch or so off the ground, and you want to let your foot dangle naturally. So the foot isn't flat, the bottom of my foot is not parallel to the floor, but I'm letting the foot dangle naturally so that my toe is pointed at a downward angle. Now what I'm going to do is just make figure eights with my toe facing down in front of my left foot. So as I come across the left side, I'm essentially showing the outside of my thigh towards the front of the room. I'm going to scoop back a little bit so that I'm about halfway past the foot. So my right foot is about halfway between my left heel and my left toes. And then I'm going to sweep forward, turning so that the inside of my thigh and the inside of my foot is now facing the front of the room. I'm going to come across and then scoop back again so that my toes on my right foot are about halfway in between the left heel and the left toes, and then I'm going to just repeat that. So I'm just sort of slowly making this figure eight shape in front of my left foot. And as I start to feel the hip loosen, you can get a little bit quicker with that motion. You want to do it about 15 times, but really just do it until you start to feel the hip loosen up. The next stretch we're going to do is one that a lot of people are familiar with, and this is a quad stretch. So you're going to stand on one leg, so we're going to stand on the left leg first, bring the right foot up and back. You're going to catch it with your right hand, there it is, and then stand up straight. So you have your foot, you might be leaning to the right, you want to then stand up straight. And of course, this stretch also requires a little bit of balance. And a lot of people like to find a spot on the wall to stare at. It helps them balance. If you need to, you can also take your left hand and grab a wall for a little bit of support. Some important things to keep in mind with this stretch is you want to keep your knees next to each other. So you don't want one knee, the knee that you're stretching, to come out to the side like this. It's unhealthy for the body. You want to keep the knees next to each other. And if you want to get a little bit more out of the stretch, you want to visualize the tip of your kneecap reaching down into the floor. So from this position, I'm thinking about sort of stretching my leg, leading with the tip of the kneecap straight down into the ground. Another thing that we can do to get a little bit more out of the stretch is to take the right foot and push it into the right hand without actually letting the foot move the hand. That's going to help open up this leg. Alright, so now we're moving on to the lower part of our legs, which is of course why you can't see my face right now. So what I'm doing is I'm standing in front of a wall about 8 inches or so, maybe 8 to 10 inches away from the wall, and I'm going to do a calf stretch. And this is very simple. All you're going to do is take your right foot first, and you're going to put your heel so that the heel's on the ground and that your toes are up against the wall. And all you're going to do is put your 2 hands flat on the wall so that your palms are touching the wall, and you're just going to start to lean your chest in toward the wall. And the closer your chest gets to the wall, the deeper you'll feel that stretch creeping up your calf muscles. So now that we've stretched our calf muscle, we want to go ahead and bring a stretch into the other side of the bottoms of our legs, the front side, which is of course our shin. And really all we're going to do is the opposite stretch that we just did for our calf. So instead of bringing that right foot forward, with the heel down and the toes up, I'm going to bring that right foot back, my toe down and my heel up, so that my right foot is basically straight up and down. And I'm still up against the wall like I was for the calf stretch, with my palms flat against the wall right in front of my chest. And what I'm going to do once I'm in this position, I'm going to bend my left knee slightly, and I'm going to straighten my right leg, not locking the right knee, keeping the right knee relaxed, but with the straight right leg. I'm going to lean forward just a little bit with my chest, and I'm going to start to do a little bit of a sliding motion, sliding my right foot forward so that the tips of my right toenails are touching the floor. And as I do that, I'm just going to make sure to check my right leg to make sure that it's straight. And as I straighten it out again, it's going to bring a nice stretch into that shin muscle. For those of you who've been doing pedal exercises and have felt that burn in the shin, you know that this is an important stretch for us drummers. So there we have it, a quick and easy daily stretching routine designed by a drummer for drummers that addresses all of the important muscles that we need in order to play our instrument. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that this video has been helpful to you. And you know, since I started doing the Drumming 101 video series for beginners last month, I've really enjoyed hearing feedback from some of you out there, and I would love to hear more. So for any of you at home who have seen this video or any of the other Drumming 101 video series that I'm doing, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear your feedback, things that you liked about the video, questions, topics that you'd like me to cover in other videos. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook, and of course you can go to my website, danbarman.com. You can find more information about private lessons, schedule of upcoming performances, and other information about what I'm doing out in the world of drumming. Thanks again so much, and I hope that you'll join me for my next video when I'll be talking about the warm-up process. I'm going to go over some important concepts to keep in mind about how to warm up, and I'm going to show you some good beginning warm-up exercises for you beginning drummers. Thanks again.